Hello everyone, this is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing with episode number 97 of the Today's Electrical Economy podcast series sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. The company began producing epoxy fiberglass conduit fittings in 1988 and in 1989 developed the first conduit from epoxy resins that had flame resistance and low smoke characteristics. This met the most stringent codes and specifications. Episode 97 of this podcast series looks at the 10 largest distributors in electrical wholesaling's 2024 Top 100 ranking. That's right, it's the top 100 now. And that's because of the dozens of distributor acquisitions over the past few years, which made it tougher for us to rank the larger distributors going all the way up to 150 and not long ago up to 200. We'll also provide you with updated information for 5 key weekly economic indicators. Initial unemployment claims at the state level, rail freight car traffic, the Baker Hughes rig count, oil prices, and copper prices. Our thanks again to Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring today's Electrical Economies podcast series for 2024. For the week ending May the 25th, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted unemployment initial claims was 219,000. That is an increase of 3,000 from the previous week's revised level. The 4-week moving average for unemployment claims was 222,500. And that is an increase of 2,500 from the previous week's revised average. The April 2024 unemployment rate for the United States stands at 3.9%. These 5 states had the largest decreases in unemployment claims for the week ending May the 25th. We didn't have any states that had a decrease of 1,000, which has been pretty common over the past couple months. Pennsylvania had the biggest decrease at 845 claims, now standing at 9,487. California was down 760 claims. Now has 39,130 claims out there. Ohio down 689 claims, now standing at 4,505. Florida down 499 claims, now sitting at 6,113. And the state of North Carolina down 483 claims to 2,932. When looking at the states with the biggest increases in claims for the week ending May the 25th, we did have 2 states over 1,000 claims. Tennessee had an increase of 1,890, now that's sitting at 5,008. Michigan had an increase of 1,603, now sitting at 7,394. Other states in that top 5 were Minnesota, increase of 828 claims, now has 4,029. Illinois up 810 claims, now sitting at 8,983. And the state of Missouri up 717 claims, now sitting at 3,797. One of the more interesting leading economic indicators for the overall U.S. economy is freight rail traffic. It's a measure of the amount of raw materials and finished goods being shipped by rail. The best source for this data is the American Association of Railroads, or AAR. It publishes this data weekly at www.aar.org. For the week ending May the 25th, total U.S. weekly rail traffic was 485,232 carloads and intermodal units. That's up 1.2% compared with the same week last year. For the first 21 weeks of 2024, U.S. railroads reported cumulative volume of 4,477,274 carloads, which is down 5% from the same point last year. It also reported 5,324,623 intermodal units, but that is up 8.6% from last year. Total combined U.S. railroad traffic, which is the carloads and the intermodal units combined, for the first 21 weeks of 2024 was 9,801,897 carloads and intermodal units. Total increase of 1.9% compared to this time last year. Not too bad. With the exception of coal shipments by freight, which is down 18.3% year to date compared to this time last year, the majority of the freight categories are showing growth year to date over last year. Petroleum and petroleum product shipments are up the most at 10.5%. They're followed by total intermodal unit shipments at 8.6%. Motor vehicles and parts are up 4.7%, and chemicals are up 4% for the other categories showing notable gains. On the downside of the ledger are non-metallic minerals down 7.4% year to date, and total carloads down 5%. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count, which tracks the oil and gas rigs that are operating. This data is available by state, by basin, and nationally at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This slide gives you an idea of the largest oil and gas deposits. It gives you a sense of just how many of them are in Texas and Oklahoma, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. The Baker Hughes rig count for operating oil and gas rigs was even at 600 this past week. That's down 96 from last year for a 13.8% decline. The Permian Basin lost 2 rigs and now stands at 310. The Conner-Woodford Basin in Texas and Oklahoma was also down, and it was down by 4 rigs. Oil prices on Monday, June the 3rd were at $75.79 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude oil. It's a bit below the average daily price over the past 2 years. The yellow line on the chart shows the average price and all the variation we have seen since the beginning of 2023. Average price since January 2023, $77.99 per barrel. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper because it's a leading economic indicator for future activity since copper is used in so many industries. The construction industry is among the leading markets for copper because of its use in wire and cable and copper plumbing pipe. Copper prices are down to $4.63 a pound on June the 3rd. That's still significantly higher than the daily average since early 2023 of $3.95. Since January 2023 until the recent March over $5 a pound in the recent month or two, copper prices on the COMEX have been between $4.25 for the high and $3.50 or so for the low. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, this year electrical wholesaling debtors decided to cut back our listing of the largest distributors to 100. That's because of all the acquisition activity over the past few years. Electrical wholesaling's listing of the largest distributors has an interesting background. It was started in the late 1970s by Andrea Herbert, one of my industry mentors. She initially ranked 100 companies and in the early 1980s increased that list to make it the top 250. The main reason at the time for ranking the largest distributors at the 250 number was because some of the marketing folks at EW liked the fact that 250 was half the number that the Fortune 500 ranked. Let's take a look at some of the key takeaways in this year's ranking. Alrighty, here's our listing of the top 10 distributors for 2024. Big news really with all of them is that they now account for 52% of total industry sales. We're estimating total industry sales at about $145.3 billion. As you can imagine, a lot of with general increase from good business over the past year, also some of the market share they're acquiring through buying other distributors, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Wesco remains at the top of the list by quite a bit, as you see, $19.6 billion. That asterisk there means that the sales include both U.S. and Canada, as well as some sales for Mexico and other areas for many of these companies. Sonopar still solidly in the number 2 position at $15.3 billion. Number 3 ranked Graybar made a couple of big acquisitions over the past year. We'll talk about them. Rexel also made some interesting acquisitions over the past year, coming in with North American sales of just over $9 billion and 656 locations around there, which is pretty significant. Consolidated Electrical Distributors doesn't release sales figures, but we were able to estimate their sales based on their employee count, and we use a sales per employee figure this year at 971,254. Border States Electric now over the $4 billion mark. That's pretty amazing. City Electric Supply also prefers not to release their numbers. The big news, of course, with City Electric Supply is their expansion. They have added so many branches over the past couple of years. We'll give the exact numbers in just a minute or two. Elliott Electric Supply coming in at over $2 billion in sales. Gosh, I remember it wasn't all that long ago when they were just getting over the $1 billion mark, and they got to over $2 billion very quickly. McNaughton McKay, we had to work with an employee sales figure there, sales estimate, I should say, coming at number 9, and U.S. Electrical Services. We estimate that for some of the companies that you not ranked there, they're all over $2 billion in sales, which is really pretty significant. And as I mentioned before, $1 billion is still a very big milestone, but the fact that we have so many companies over $2 billion just shows you how much of the consolidation is going on. Here's a couple of takeaways that really stuck out to me while I was going through the list for this year. As I mentioned, top 10 distributors, they did 52% of the market. Probably our best to get is about $75.5 billion. If you look at the entire list, they did about $95 billion. That's about 65% of our estimated $145.3 billion in sales through distributors. At least a dozen distributors do over $1 billion. We looked in the top 10, and those were the ones that over $2 billion sales. These companies, as in total, employ no less than 93,173 workers. It's 126,700 if you count Fastenal and Grainger, which some people dispute whether they should be in the listing. I put them in because we have a good hard number for the number of electrical sales that they have there. The top 100 distributors, if you want to look at the full liners and some of the product specialists, they operate 6,846 branches. It's over 8,000 branches if you include Granger and Fastenal. The thing that on the branch count that I find particularly interesting is, even with all the acquisition, the number of branches in the industry network is actually growing, not by far. It is not decreasing, just even though there are less name companies on the operating independently. They're now subsidiaries of larger companies, but for the most part, they are maintaining the number of branches that they operate. Let's dig in a little bit to the number of branches that they're operating, and we'll have some of the trends that we saw within that. As I mentioned, top 100 in total, operating over 6,800 branches is the number in total, counting Granger and Fastenal over 8,200. The top 100 distributors told Electrical Wholesaling that they opened up at least 123 new branches in 2023 and 2024. It's probably significantly over that, but these were just the companies that did respond to the survey. The big winner as far as number of branch openings, as it has been over the past number of years, City Electric Supply. They responded over the past year. They've opened up 40 new locations in the United States and Canada. Over the past 6 years, according to our data, they've opened up at least 181 new locations in North America. Think about that, 181 new locations. That alone is a pretty good size distributor. That is just what they've opened up in new branches. Wind Supply, which operates in the electrical business as far as other some niche commercial and infrastructure types of industries. They opened up 7 branches in 2023. They plan to launch at least 15 more in there. And these are not all electrical branches. They'll have some of them more specific electrical. Some will also carry other supplies as well. Elliott Electric Supply, also their branch openings, a big part of their growth strategy. They opened up 5 locations in 2023. They have plans for many more in 2024. And according to the border states response, in total they have 7 more branches than they did over the past year. You can't talk for too long about the 10 largest distributors without talking about all the acquisitions they've made. And when you think of what they've just in the past 2 years, they've easily acquired several $100 million worth of revenues and the market share that comes along with it. I don't have exact numbers on all that they've acquired in terms of revenue, but you know what? If it was over $1 billion, it wouldn't surprise me. Let's take a look at them. And these are the ones I'll be discussing, as you can see on the chart. They're all organized by alphabetically by the acquirer. Dominion Electric Supply made a very large acquisition. They're first in the Mid-Atlantic states with the acquisition of Dominion Electric Supply, and that is in the Washington-Baltimore metro. They also bought an engineering company, an engineering service firm, so they'll be getting into providing some other types of large project work through this company based out of West Hollywood, California. CED quietly bought Parashale Electric Supply. It was a large independent based in Irving, Texas. Now, Grayware made 2 really good-sized acquisitions of independents. One, Blazer Electric Supply in that fast-growing Colorado market. They're based out of Colorado Springs, and Shepherd Electric Supply in the Baltimore, Maryland market. They're also active in DC. Rexel has been active over the past couple of years in acquisitions. The biggest, I believe, in terms of total dollar sales was a company I was not familiar with from outside the business, but Tally Incorporated out of Los Angeles, very big in the voice data video or VDV market. They bought a very large and well-known company in the Bay Area, Buckle Smith, and Tesh Electric in Lafayette, Louisiana, and on the Gulf Coast there. Sonepar, also as usual, I guess you could say they have been the most active acquirer in most years, not every year. This year and last year, very big for sure. Just over the past week or so, we got the news that they had acquired through their Northeast Electrical Distributor subsidiary, Electric Supply Center in Burlington, Mass., one of the largest independents in the Boston metro market, as well as parts of southern New England. They also made some big acquisitions up in the Michigan market with the acquisition of Madison Electric Company and Standard Electric Company. And they also bought a company in southern Ontario that I wasn't very familiar with, Electrozat. As I researched it, realized that's a pretty good sized independent, very active in the industrial market. They bought through Billows last year through Billows Supply, one of the largest independents in Philadelphia. That was a biggie. Also going into a major metropolitan area, this time through their Viking Electric Supply subsidiary, they bought in Chicago, the Chicago suburbs, Sunrise Electric Supply, and that is Addison, Illinois. And another big one, for sure, through their World Electric Supply subsidiary, they bought Electric Supply of Tampa, in Tampa, Florida, and all the branches along the southwest coast of Florida. Fast-growing market, very big deal for Sonepar there. We'll be posting the The rest of our, you've got a good sneak preview of some of the highlights of our listing of the top 100 distributors. We'll be posting a good chunk of the rest of it the first week in June as we've transitioned that electrical wholesaling to go all digital. This is going to be a fun project to see how we can supplement what we had been doing in print by doing it all online. We'll have a podcast. I've got some other galleries and some other ideas. So we'll be releasing more information on our top 100 over the next week. And I hope you do enjoy reading about it and learning about it as much as I enjoyed putting it together. That wraps up our podcast for today. And special thanks to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring this podcast series in 2023 and again in 2024. And in fact, going all the way back to 2020. It's hard to believe we're at 97 episodes already. Please contact me if there's any other type of economic data or industry news that you'd like us to be covering in these podcasts. Our next presentation will be on June 17th in 2 weeks. Until then, be happy, stay healthy, and I look forward to talking with you in 2 weeks.